And it sounds like we're on. And I would like to welcome everybody to this wonderful, moist August night. What a strange concept. Um, as we are going to talk about gardening with Nancy O'Connor, and we're going to talk about the film Growing Cities. But before, I want to spend a little bit more time on our desserts. So, I mean, I think, dessert is important. You should eat it first. So I would like to hear what kind of dessert you have. Okay, Jim is holding either, I won't say what, very something big in chocolate with nuts in it. Would you like to unmute Jim and tell us about your dessert?
You're, we can't hear you.
Sorry.
Unmute.
Unmute, darling. I know he's playing
I
games.
did. I was trying to be funny there. That is a chocolate pear cake with pears from the West Middle School garden.
Well then.
Yes.
Okay, it looks awfully good. Does it look like, is that pears in it or it look like nuts or something?
No, it's pears.
Yeah.
Hunks of pear. Yeah. So
Is
that's
it
what I have here on my plate.
gluten-free?
Actually, that is.
It is
Good.
gluten-free, yeah.
Good. Okay.
And my
Well,
guess is that Nancy O'Connor is eating the same thing.
probably in the other room.
Right.
Okay. I have here, I made a rustic apple tart,
Ooh.
and I didn't make the pastry. The pastry comes
Mm.
frozen. It's a
Mhm.
brand called Dufour, Dufour. It's a
Yeah, yeah.
woman-owned company. I
Mhm.
believe they're out of New Jersey or New York. And it's puff pastry that's frozen, but I was saying to Nancy earlier, they totally leave Pepperidge Farm behind in the dirt. It's great. But I did pick the apples off my little apple trees, so that's what I have.
Ooh.
And I got one little rogue and I threw a few blueberries in there. So that's my dessert. Anybody else have a dessert to share that tell us about?
I have,
I have the same.
She has a pear. Okay. What do you have,
have a
Carol?
birthday cake. My grandson turned 9 yesterday, so it's in a jar because I brought it home from his house.
That's very efficient. Sounds delicious. Anyone else have a dessert that they'd like to talk about or share?
Good.
What do you
Date
have, Shelley?
balls. I have coconut covered date balls, but they're just from the store. I didn't-
Sounds lovely.
But yeah, I had them left from last of the package.
I think that makes sense. And I was bemoaning the fact that this recipe made 6 of these things, and there's only one of me. So I wish 3 or 4 of you would come over and take them off my hands. I don't bake too much anymore. Well, that was that part of the program. I did want to, as always, I neglected to speak about Capital Federal and the Katzmans. I always like to do a shout out for them. They keep the zooming and the power on and the lights going, everything around here. And we're very appreciative for their financial support of the retroactive program. It's great to see all of you. I'm so glad you're here. And I want to talk a little bit about the movie before we talk with Nancy about her work. We normally rate it. So the famous give me a 5 is great, and this is like bad. If you could give this film a rating, where would you put it? Shelley's got a 4 going,
That's good.
some 4s, a 5. All right. Anybody else? Nancy, you're allowed to rate it if you want.
Hey,
Yeah.
2 or 4.
Uh-huh. I thought it was a wonderful film, and I'll probably get into that a little bit later if I get a chance to talk about it, because I don't want to be the only one talking. But just to start out, I would say so many times films that I've seen about food, I go away feeling very sad because I want Monsanto to crash and burn, and Conagra should go away, and what are we going to do about this and that? But this film was none of that. This film to me was very uplifting and encouraging. And I love the crazy people that are out there doing that work. So I enjoyed that. I wanted to, if you wouldn't mind, was there any particular thing in the film that struck you, or that something that you really liked or really thought was crazy or off the charts, or anything that really, really resonated with you? I'll just start as a model. I'm modeling behavior to the fourth grade. Several of them were amazing, but I was so touched by the man who left his teaching position in New York, and he was working in New Orleans, and he was running the garden, which they called our school at Blair Grocery. And he was working with those kids that had nothing in that 6th ward, which is like 2 miles away from the old quarter of New Orleans. And I just, the commitment that he had to work with those kids who had nothing. And I just thought it was fantastic that they were learning by doing, which is the best way to learn. And the garden was great. And one thing that stuck with me is the young man earlier who was talking about how in the gangs, you go to a certain corner and you start yelling at each other and you get out your guns. And I don't normally get that much honesty from people when they speak to me. But he was the same one at the end who was holding a bunch of sprouts or something. And he said, I like washing these. He said, it's people are going to eat these. It's like you're caring for them. I loved it. That's what a garden can do. So is there anything anybody else wants to talk about? Because don't want to.
I was really wowed by the amazing garden and capability of the guy in San Francisco who was just had thumbs.
Yeah.
And they were obviously very, very green thumbs. But
Yeah.
it was like, wow. I mean, it's if there was anything that I thought was kind of off, they made it sound like some of this stuff was kind of easy. And there's a lot of, anyone who's gardened knows that there's a lot of hard work and sometimes disappointment and so forth when, hail hits or,
Right.
locusts descend or whatever. But to see what all he had going on, and that he may have named them, but they weren't pets, it was I thought that was exceptionally wonderful.
I did too. He was adorable, taking his goats for a walk. That was very
Notice
nice.
they started eating somebody else's flower, shrub, flowering shrub, and I'm guessing that maybe the owner didn't want them to do that, but
Well, they were just having a sample. Phil, did you have your hand up? Did you want to talk about something? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say I was struck by the sort of history and sociology that they went through of the victory gardens and how there's sort of been these waves of growing your own food that come and go. And I found that fascinating, and I'd love to know more about sort of the sociology of that.
Yes, that in the First World War, that the first thing people wanted to do was grow food. They wanted to grow their own food, and
And
and then
again in World War II. And
yeah.
and if I think some of us at least will remember the old gardening show on PBS that was called Victory Garden, and it was a wonderful program. I was sorry when I guess he got either aged out or died. I'm not sure which. James Crockett.
Yes.
Yeah. I wonder how much of that is social and how much of that is marketing, because I don't think we're aware of how much marketing affects us. Just like with all that, hey, let's go buy right after the war kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes, I remember I was very little in that 50s boom. I was a little baby, but as we got into the 60s and I was paying attention to my mother, as soon as anything came out in a can or in a box, we were eating it because and I don't blame her because it was going to make her life easier. But when the 70s rolled around and she came to visit me and I had a garden I was canning, she said, "Why are you doing that? You can buy it at the store." And she just thought it was sort of a waste of time. But that was interesting that when things get tough, people plant a garden. And there's something mystical going on there. Did anybody else have something yes, ma'am. Okay.
I was really impressed with the two guys that did the documentary. I mean, I thought they were so creative and
Yeah.
traveling all over and interviewing and just being able to do that filming, I thought was pretty incredible. I really appreciated all they did, and then I thought it was interesting that when they came back to their home state of Nebraska and went to Omaha, they found out there actually was a garden there. So it was some gardening being done there. But they did such a terrific job of having good examples and good narration, I thought. Good filming.
I liked their truck garden at the end too.
Live there. I think a lot of us could relate to that. Jim?
Yeah, I am curious to hear from Nancy about her reaction as a nutrition educator to some of what was spoken about. Because I think most of us know that if you grow your own food, it tastes better than pretty often than what you can get in the grocery store. You know, if you're lucky enough to be near a farmer's market, you can get the same high quality. But I'm curious what Nancy thinks about, um, you know, some of the aspects of the movie. Yeah.
And I like that part too. Nancy?
Yeah. Well, I guess for me, there was more than one level at which you could watch this movie. It was a great feel-good story about these two young guys that went across the United States thousands of miles in search of how can we help? What can we do? But for me, that movie was about a lot more than gardens. They called it growing cities. I would call it growing communities. And I see for myself as a nutrition educator, one of the things that led me to start the Garden at West 16 years ago was the disconnect that so many people, especially youth, have with food. And when you're not connected with food and where it comes from, how do you improve what you eat? And that just got me off on all kinds of thoughts about like Michael Pollan's, and I want to talk about this a little bit, food rules and the deeper levels that we grow food. But I also want to acknowledge that on this Zoom there are two young people, not much younger than the two guys that set off on this journey to make this film. And they are two young people, Felix Mueller and Anna Steele, who work at the garden at West Middle School and who have worked there, Anna for 4 years, Felix for 3 years, because they believe in the work we do, which is growing food to build connections in our community and help feed our neighbors. And I hope we get to hear from them because they're what keep me inspired to work in the garden when it's so hot or I'm too tired and I don't want to go on, because they're like the two young men who made this movie in search of something.
Right.
They are, of
Hey,
course, our
can I
hope.
interrupt? Can I
Yeah.
interrupt for a second? I'm going to see if I can trade places with Nancy. Is anyone else seeing her like stop motion thing? Let me see if I can trade places with her. She'll be under my name if it works. Am I doing stop motion or no?
No, you aren't,
No.
Nancy.
Okay. Nancy, switch with me.
Okay, we're trading computers.
Okay, trading places. Thank you for doing that.
Okay.
Just go in there.
And in the
Yeah.
meantime, I would say that I also appreciated the garden in Chicago where the guy said that he was growing vegetables, and when he was a kid, he'd go out and get the Red Hots and the Rolos and the bags of chips, and he said, and I don't want to die at 60 like my uncle and my dad. And I quoted him. He said, why would I want to feed my kids death? And I mean, it's astounding. It's astounding the things that the people were saying and what came over them. So, yeah, that was another very important part of it.
I also like the girl towards the end who was talking about what good food they were growing on that roof, and it was really delicious, wonderful food. And roofs are wonderful places in New York City, not just because of not having a lot of real estate that's available and things can, turn around and they'll suddenly sell it out from beneath them, sort of thing. But with the roof, as long as they can, weatherize it, they get more sun. It's
Yeah.
helping out the building and it's safer for the people who are gardening.
Yes.
So
And I wonder, I bet you 5 cents a squash bug could get up there. I've
probably.
worked with squash bugs here in Kansas. They have magic powers. So maybe since Nancy is now Jim, she could tell us a little bit about herself. I think maybe we could move on and hear what she might have to say. I'm curious about your passion for gardening. You might want to tell all of us about your background and I mean, as far as I know, you have maybe one of the only, if the few, I'm not familiar with a community garden that comes through Sunrise, but you might have maybe the oldest established community garden in this town. And just tell us a little bit about yourself and where did this come from?
Well, let's see. The project that I oversee is called Growing Food, Growing Health, and it is now in its 16th season. And it's on the grounds of West Middle School if you've driven by along Crestline. And the idea came from me being a nutrition educator and talking with youth and trying to figure out how do we crack this nut? Because you can't just stand in front of kids and say you should eat broccoli and carrots. That doesn't work. But the idea that youth, but it's not just youth, we're disconnected where food comes from. And that connection is essential to inspire us to eat differently. So we started that garden at West Middle School. I think it probably is the oldest established school garden, and it predated the farm to school program. And the program, so we're a small nonprofit. We employ 5 youth every year who are the stewards of the garden. And those students, Felix, Santa, and I just came back from working at the garden. We work at the garden and grow food to give to our community, to share with our community. So we consider ourselves a food justice program too, because you can't talk about food without talking about food justice. And I think the film hit on that that the people that need the food the most sometimes get the least of the food. So our project didn't start out like that. We started growing food and we used to sell it, but it always felt like there was some piece missing there, that we were good at growing food. We did this work. We taught youth how to grow beets and okra, but it had to be more than that. It had to be helping future leaders understand about food justice and sharing food. So that is what we do. So in the 16 years of the garden, we've grown and harvested over 40,000 pounds of produce from the West Garden. And we used to donate it to Just Food many years ago, which was great. But Just Food is a big organization and we deliver the food there. And our youth, being thinking youth that were with us because they wanted more outside themselves than themselves, would say, well, who got the food? So that piece was missing. So we established a free, what we call free market at Edgewood Homes in 2020 at the start of COVID, where we had this idea that we would take all of our food and bring it to a location and give it to people, but in a way that was of the highest level of dignity. They didn't have to prove anything. They could just come to us and they wouldn't take it. We would serve them. It would be exactly like a farmer's market with tablecloths and presented beautifully. And we would fill their bags and they could go, but they didn't have to pay for it. And that is what we're doing. This year, we're doing a different model. We're working with Ballard Center in North Lawrence. So there also, we set up a farmer's market once a week and 2 students and myself run it. And we set up a tent in the parking lot. We have all these lugs filled with beautiful produce. And I have to say the care is extraordinary because our commitment is to helping bring people up, not by saying, well, here's some free potatoes. They're green, but they're free. Or here's some tomatoes. They're damaged, but they're free. So our students harvest, handle, weigh, wash, package every piece of produce so that it's the best there could be. And then we bring it to our community and share it. And I think for me, the inspiration and part of the inspiration of this movie was that it was 2 young men who wanted to know more, who wanted to know how can we help, what can we do. I think that movie should have been called Growing Communities instead of Growing Cities. And I don't want to talk too much because I really would love for you to hear from Felix and Anna, who are on this Zoom, because they are 2 of the gardeners. And I have to say that there's hope there. There's a lot of hope when you can work side by side with a 16-year-old in 95-degree weather early in the morning during the summer when most of their peers are still in bed, and they get dirty and they get wet and they work hard and they always come to work on time and they never complain. And this is the truth. Yesterday at the market, I worked with Felix and I said to Felix, what did you think of that movie? And I don't know if you remember, Felix, what you said, but Felix said, it's what we do. And I was struck with that too. It was great to see some of these grand projects like Growing Power in Milwaukee, but it is happening here. It is happening on Crestline Tribe with 4 teenagers who made a decision to put their phone in the shed and come to work no matter what, and put their whole heart into it. And I see them, I asked them to get something from the van and I watched them running across the parking lot to the van. So I really would love for Felix and Anna each to just chime in here and tell us a little bit about what they do and why they do it when none of their peers are doing this. I mean, it is a tough, not a tough job. I mean, we're a very tight crew, but their commitment to community is in contrast to the sometimes when we listen to the news, you think, where's the hope here? Well, the hope is Felix, Anna, Eleanor, all the kids, Ellen, Anders, who I work with. And so I'd love for them to jump in and speak. I also see Perry Kennard here, and Perry is the garden assistant at West. And this is a group of people that will let you know there is hope. So I'd love for them to speak.
Okay. Well, which one of you three would like to start?
I'll start.
Felix is unmuted. Okay. Yeah, tell us a little bit about how you got involved and what drew you to the project and how you like the movie,
I
etc.
I thought the movie was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked the truck fed part at the end. I got involved because I heard about it through Anna, and yeah, I really enjoy the job. I think it's a lot of fun, and I like having a job that is morally good.
Really good.
Good for you. That's a good expression.
Morally good.
Yeah.
We're in short supply. Morally good.
Yeah,
Well,
that's true. I understand. Okay, and
How about- okay, how about Anna? Anna, are you there?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
here. Yeah, I guess this is my 4th season working here, so I mean it's probably pretty obvious that I love it. Um, it's an incredible job. I've grown up always wanting to be able to do more for people, and this was just a way that, not only could I actually see the difference I was making in people and being able to make those connections with people I wouldn't normally get to, but I can also do it in a way that I love it and I enjoy it and feel like I always get so much out of it. Yeah, it's very fulfilling in a way that I guess probably many, if not like any other experiences, haven't been able to be quite so fulfilling for me.
What's the best part of the job for you? What do you like the most? Sounds like the whole thing's wonderful, but is there anything that really stands out for you?
Yeah, the people. That's always been my favorite part. Is just I love it how we have our regular customers that stop by, and I love being able to see how they've changed throughout the years. And I like being able to see how, a few of them, they start off kind of distant and cold, but over time they just are so excited just to talk to us and just to see us, and they'll tell us just all of the smallest pieces of their day and what they really want, just someone to listen to them. And so, not only are we giving them food, which is, their livelihood, they need that, but they also just need someone to listen to them. And being able to be that person that's actively there listening to them and caring about them is just, I don't know, that's my favorite part.
The beautiful part. It's like the young man who loves to wash the vegetables because he's caring for the people. Very touching. I wonder if Perry has anything to say over there in the upper right-hand corner of my screen. Unmute.
Muted.
Okay. There, he's working on it. I don't think I can help him. I'm going to ask him to unmute, but
Yes.
I think we figured it out. We're on my phone. So we're not sure how to do the settings, but
great.
Um,
Thank you, Perry.
yeah, I just want to thank Nancy for all she's done for the community. She actually helped us start a school garden at Southwest Middle School, growing a better future, that I helped manage for 13 years. And then I've just recently retired from teaching at Southwest and no longer working at that garden, at least presently, and been helping out at the West School Garden. And I love the model of not just growing food to sell at a market, but actually to give it to the people who need it most. So I really appreciate her helping us get started and her vision for the future as well.
And Nancy, is there anything you want to add about the market in general. Now, way back when, I think when you first started the school garden, I was teaching earlier than that, but I remember the idea of school gardens came out of California, didn't it?
It
And
did. I mean,
Yeah,
you
and
know.
I remember I was teaching at the time and I thought that is absolutely brilliant. But
Mhm.
then I thought there's no way that I could teach school and manage a garden. I mean, I knew because I had one at home right away, and I just wasn't sure how to get those two beautiful ideas together, a school and a garden.
Right.
So how did you get that ball rolling? You were working at the Merck at the time, is that correct?
I was. So I had that advantage of that organization behind me. But you do bring up a good point, Laurel. And you're speaking of the Edible Schoolyard, which Alice Waters
Yes.
started in Berkeley. And, that's Alice Waters. And for her, I mean, I've been fortunate to visit that garden, and maybe it's something to aspire to, or maybe it's something to look at and think that's good for them. But we have to look at what's possible for us. And I think one of the big challenges with school gardens, and Perry sure knows this, is that, you know, gardens need the most attention in the summer
Yeah.
when no one is in the building. And then when teachers come back in the fall, their plates are full. And to say to them, and also, would you like to be the garden coordinator? It's a stretch.
Mhm.
And I, we've done West long enough to have seen the establishment of the farm to school program district wide in Lawrence. And there's been certainly many challenges. I mean, who's going to do it? And as I often say, if somebody isn't laying awake at night worrying about this, it's not going to happen. And when I started the Garden of West, and I know I've told this story many times, and I knew that then Principal Myron Melton, and I said, Myron, as a nutrition educator, I really think what we need to do for youth is to put gardens in front of them so that they can actually see where food comes from. They walk by it every day. They'll look out the classroom window and there's the apple tree. And then he listened to all these great ideals that I had. And then he said, yes, but I don't want a weed patch out there because he was a realistic principal. And because we've all seen plenty of weed patches, understandably, and there is a lot of, if you're a grower and you want to let a field go fallow, you can. But if you're gardening on school grounds and it's July and nobody's around and the weeds take over, that makes sense. But I realize that especially with school gardens, there's a lot of judgment of success based on what does it look like.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pressure with school gardens to make it beautiful, but then, and school gardens function different ways. Some are more educational. Ours is definitely a service oriented garden. So we function more like a market garden on school grounds. And there's a lot of hoops to jump through with the district. I mean, logistically, but we've managed to jump through most of those. And like I said, the West Garden is 16 years old, and certainly the garden at Southwest's remarkable passion of Perry as a science teacher. But I will say that most of the other schools do not have that person like Perry Kennard. And it's tough. And where does that fall in the list of priorities when there's so much to attend to with youth these days in school and standards and testing? But we function very differently at West because we're an independent nonprofit.
Okay.
Not a school entity, but we run our project on school grounds. So I've been glad to watch the evolution of it. We originally thought naively we would put a lot into the cafeteria, but that's also challenging because the food is centralized
Right.
and brought to all the schools, but
Originally,
still,
originally you had some of this food served in the school, or
we
when
did.
when it
But
started.
when you're harvesting pounds and pounds and pounds of cucumbers in July, no one's
Yeah.
there. And I think what we realized pretty early on is that our capacity to grow and when we were at peak production was not aligned with the school
No,
year.
with the school year, no.
And people were receptive, and we tried that, and but we do not put food into the cafeteria now. That just was logistically that didn't work, but it still, that garden, that big visible garden, those apple trees that are bending over right now with apples, and they are right outside classrooms,
Mhm.
and kids cut through the garden all the time. That has become part of the fabric of West, and that in itself helps achieve part of what we started out to do, which is raising awareness of where food comes from.
Mhm.
Because as Michael Pollan says in his sweet little book, Food Rules, which is a fabulous book that I would highly recommend. One of his favorite quotes is, well, his basic premise is eat food, not too much, mostly plants.
Right.
But then one other thing he says in this book, if it comes out of a window into your car, it's not food.
Well,
You
that,
know,
yeah, through a window in a building, maybe not. If something
Yeah.
happened to it, yeah.
So
I know for a little while you had a garden over at First Step. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because that was another
we
project
did.
you had going. Tell
We
us about that
did.
a little bit.
There's no shortage of what you could do, but you
Mhm.
had to figure out what you can do.
Mhm.
And for 7 years, we ran a garden at First Step called Growing Food, Growing Hope. And that garden put food into the cafeteria for the women at First Step. And First Step is Residential Addiction Treatment Center for women, located south on 31st Street. And I'd say that garden project had a lot of profound moments, and Anna was with us when we used to garden over there. I mean, there were more than a few tears shared with the women there, because on a much more spiritual level, when you share your hands in the dirt together, something happens. We're equal, we're working together, we're working to nourish and heal. And we loved that project. I think we would still do it if it wasn't for the fact that it was just logistically too challenging to run two gardens, one at West and one on 31st Street with a staff of 5 students.
Right.
It just was, and because we're a nonprofit, we raise all the money for to do these programs, to pay our youth, to pay everything, to
Mhm.
have a van that delivers produce. We just, at the end of last year, we had to just say that for the sake of the future of Growing Food, Growing Health, we had to close that garden down. And that was a little heartbreaking, I think, for all of us who worked there, because there was a lot of emotional connections. Those women can't have visitors, but we were people from outside that could be on that campus. And for those women, some of whom were not much older than the gardeners they worked side by side with, that was profound for them and us. So I'm sorry that the Growing Hope Garden had to close, but the future of Growing Food, Growing Health depended on it.
Mhm.
And so we are still a food justice project, but a lot more focused now, because West was our original garden.
Right.
So, you know, it's been a journey, and it was so interesting looking at some of these gardens because I'm very familiar with some of them, like Growing Power in Milwaukee. That garden with Will Allen does not exist anymore in that in the way it was depicted on the film, because that film is an older film. Now,
Right.
Will Allen's daughter to establish a different nonprofit to continue his work, but we all need to realize that we just have to walk the path where it takes us. So I'm sorry we had to close that garden, but we're still so deeply committed to this work, which is at its best, it's communion, it's spiritual work, it's more than how do you grow a good beet, because we're pretty darn good at that at West. We're really good at growing okra, but we're also growing youth, and they're the hope. They are the hope. And when I look at the 5 kids I work with all the time, I think I can go on. So, and that Felix and Anna are here on a school night and chose to do this speaks so much. So I feel deeply honored to be part of this project and resonate with that movie, but had to look at it on a much deeper level, is that
Yeah.
together we're all in communion, putting our hands in the dirt to create community and heal together. And you don't do that with a Big Mac.
Not particularly, no. Would you like fries with that? But
Yeah.
that's okay. Is there-
Nancy, I have a question.
Great, sure.
I happened to drive past West Junior High today, and I glanced over at the garden because it's pretty. And I noticed a section of lawn was roped off just to the south of it. Are you expanding the garden?
Oh, yes, we do grow there too.
Oh, it
um,
looked just like grass to me.
Yes, well, that was where we planted potatoes. And when we dug up all the potatoes, there's also gooseberries over there, and that orchard there is ours too. We established that orchard when we started West 16 years ago. It is roped off because right now it has corn in it, not necessarily to yield corn, but to create this kind of wall of green after we harvested the potatoes. And we used to grow sweet potatoes in that same spot, but we have, we're kind of bound by how much ground there is there. So we had to rotate the sweet potatoes out of there because the voles were eating too many sweet potatoes. So that is ours too. We do maintain that part. Good noticing. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, and I just want to know if Felix or Anna have anything else to add to this conversation about the depth of the work that we do, or how you feel like it has changed you as young people. Because we're all older, retroactive people.
I really I think I find more joy in like putting hard work into something. Like it's inspired me to like enjoy working harder at something that I feel passionate about.
Yes. How many teenagers could say that?
I also think that it helps really develop a sense of, I think the community is a really good way of saying it, because, these are people from a completely different background, completely different part of town as me. And, there's not many experiences I would be able to have where I can just, casually just ask them about their day, like have a conversation with them and really make this connection, get to know these people. And so it's really, I think, broadened my sense of what a community can really be. And it doesn't have to be people that are, just like you or have the exact same ideas as you. they can be people from anywhere and that have had any kind of background. And so it's, I don't know, just finding ways to connect with others that otherwise you probably never would have.
Whew.
Yeah, that doesn't, that doesn't happen. We don't get to cross paths with a lot of people unless we go out of our zone and do other things and get involved with them, and then we get to meet them, and we're all just people. And there's a lot of joy in that, getting to know people other than the ones we would normally run into, and it breaks down those walls that fear can build or whatever. So it's great to cross those boundaries. I think that's a good thing. So maybe we
Yes, yes, that I just have to underscore what Anna said. That's I think that we have all been filled up by our relationships with a lot of these people. Yesterday at the market, I mean, I just think of incidents. This woman came to market and she had a piece of the chocolate cake with the pears in it and 3 forks, because she knew there were always 3 of us who work, to share with us. And then that woman took produce to cook food to prepare for Family Promise. And that type of connecting in our community, because we all live in our comfort zones. And it's just good to be pulled out of your comfort zone and to see these youth, be blessed by people. We get a lot of that, bless you and thank you. And the opportunity for people to share their stories with young people. It's really exceptional.
Now you're a nonprofit, so I know you you rely on maybe what do you rely on to keep the lights on, like to keep the hose sharp? How could and expand on that to maybe how people could help, or do you have a source of do you have probably grants? How do you get the funds to run your project? If you don't mind asking.
That's a really good question, Laurel. I sometimes think in this world there are plenty of resources to do all these wonderful things if they were just a little more ironed out, a little more evenly dispersed. Because as a small nonprofit, we are small, so we don't have a grant writer or an administrative assistant. It's just us in the trenches, and then lifting our heads up and going, oh my gosh, we need more money. So we have been very grateful to Silver Lake Bank has been a newer sponsor of us. And for anyone who doesn't know them, they have a tiny bank on Massachusetts Street, and you can actually call and a human being answers the phone, and they're deeply committed to community. Of course, Community Mercantile, that's how we have our little vegetable van. They've always been a supporter of ours. Douglas County Community Foundation. But we still spend a lot of time asking people for money. Actually, we're having an event coming up. It's called Cultivate and Celebrate. And it's on Tuesday evening, September 9th at the train station, North Lawrence. And this is something we're doing to raise money. People pay $50 to come to this event, and we'll have live music by some of our gardeners and food from the garden. And we'll have a silent auction. And most importantly, the 5 students that we have hired this year as our crew, because this is a job. We do pay our students. Will each speak personally about their experience and what it means. And we have 2 gardeners, which says a lot to me, 2 young men that worked with us in the past, one of whom, TJ Everett, is now a medic with the fire department in Lawrence from our very first project. And Alex Gard, who's now an engineer that worked for us for years, also speaking to, in retrospect, what this meant in terms of how it affected them and their framing of community. And because we want to provide an opportunity for our youth to share. I mean, you just heard Anna and Felix. That's how you keep going, you know, with their inspiration. So for anybody that wants to support us, you can join us for this event. We do have a website. It's just growingfoodgrowinghealth.org. We have Instagram, so you can follow us, but we're very grateful for private donations. And there have been a number of people in this community that have just said, we believe in this kind of work, and we steward their money, you know, we take great care to be prudent with every seed and every tool. And we do have volunteers who work with us. Master Gardeners donates produce to us. Master Food Volunteers this year are helping us process some of our apples to be used to make applesauce for the child care center at Ballard. So that's another place some of our produce goes, is to the child care center at Ballard, to feed little people, to create that connection to food from the time they're 3 years old. So if somebody wants to, like, you know, support us, jump right in. You can come to our event, Cultivate and Celebrate. You can go to our website.
Okay, is that a pay at the door type of an event, or are
No,
you
it
selling
is our
tickets?
SVP because it's limited. It's at the, it'll
Okay.
be a good problem if we can't fit everybody at the train depot,
Okay,
but it
so
is,
how does one get a ticket to that? Do you, your website?
yes, it will be posted on our website in the next few days, Growing
Okay.
Food, Growing Health, and you can register through our website, or you can contact Laurel and she'll give you my email.
Yes, she will. I know her
She
very well.
will. She will.
Give me the
So,
information. You got it in your
yes.
mailbox. Okay, thank you.
So
I'd be
we'd
happy
love
to do
see
that for
you.
you. Is
And
there
then
any
you-
other project in our dear old hometown here in River City like yours? I mean, I know
sure.
there's other there's other gardens, but I don't, I mean, I know Sunrise was doing stuff for a while, but
And they are now in North Lawrence.
They're-
right.
They're going great guns. They're
Yeah.
doing community dinner twice a month, and a
Yep.
number of retroactive people, including some of them here tonight,
Okay.
attend. And
Yep.
it's wonderful. And they're gardening again, although they just got started this year, so I don't know
Yeah.
how much they're producing at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, I have nothing but admiration for Sunrise. There's the Fruit Tree Project, which is also part of Sunrise. There are community gardens throughout the community that are part of the Common Ground Project, which is overseen by the city Pearl Clark Community Garden. So that every school in the district now has some level of garden, more or less.
Mhm.
And there are people doing grow a row in their yard and giving it to Just Food. So,
Okay.
you know, there's no end to what you could do, and nothing's too small, you know, because that's how we fill in all the little chinks that are missing, you know, with food distribution to people in need. And Just Food certainly
Right.
has a formidable task in front of them. And they
Right.
have a garden in front of Just Food too. So you can
Shelley?
jump in so
Yeah,
many places.
I haven't seen it myself, but I was at an event with and I can't remember her name, from Just Food, and she was saying that they had really enlarged their garden and were doing a lot more gardening at Just Food.
Yes, maybe Andrea, who's the
Yeah,
executive director.
Thank you.
And they have great programs. Just Cook. I mean,
Yeah.
they have more than just giving people food, and they've been greatly stretched by some of the reductions in food
Right.
programming. Whew.
And Sabrina, did I see you wanted to say something?
I lived in Los Angeles my adult life. I've just moved out here recently. I told people in LA I'm going to learn where food comes from. I was hanging
That's
out with, I don't know if you know Evan, and he's helping teach permaculture. And so he showed me around his garden last weekend. And I know that there's a culture that's growing that is really wanting to learn and plan on that we may need to be able to he said don't use the word sustain, to regenerate. He said, to have community food, that we're going to have to maybe work in a more regional way to provide what we need. And so, my hat's off to the youth who is learning how to do this already. And I just wanted to ask you about, your vision about the future, as that this could possibly be a necessity. And also if we could in Lawrence, if there's some kind of organizing umbrella, because it seems like there's a little here, there's a little thing happening over here, a little thing happening over here. And I'm just wanting to maybe somehow start bringing it together so that we can have a bigger vision. And I know, I talk to people and they're very interested in getting involved, but there's not a place really to land in it in a way where each person could, contribute what they may be good at. You said you don't have an assistant, you don't have, so there's many ways besides just in the dirt that everybody could contribute. And I think it's a trend, that this is going to be needed. And so I want to just ask you about what you're thinking and how that can be pulled together.
That's a huge question, and I know we don't have much time.
Yeah, I
Right.
waited
But
till 1 minute left, right?
No.
Yeah, I'll put my
I
2 cents in.
Thank
no,
you, Sabrina.
that's way more than 2 cents, Sabrina, and it really speaks to, yes, a bigger picture. I do want to give a shout out to Lawrence Farmers Market, and I think there are some initiatives like a program called Growing Growers that a number of local farms have participated in. I think there are some real leaders in our community farms like Mellow Fields, Moon on the Meadow, and certainly others. I hear exactly what you're saying, though. I mean, is there an umbrella? There's Food Policy Council, but I don't know what the ultimate umbrella is. But there certainly is a lot of energy in Lawrence towards this, addressing this, and Just Food. You have to keep talking about Just Food because their work is huge.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Yeah, maybe I'll get in touch with you and we could talk about that further.
I was going to say, at the library, we have lots of meeting rooms.
Yes.
Yeah, because
And
I really have this
When
idea.
like-minded people get together, stand back. That's all.
Yeah, I have this idea of pulling, the people that you're talking about, that you're mentioning, if we can just pull everybody together and just start having a bigger conversation.
Well, call me
Yes.
and I'll get you a room.
Okay.
That's good.
I've
We'll
heard
get
that
that
before. Oh, in this context.
Wait a
Okay, in
minute.
this context. Okay.
Right. So maybe this, since we are closing in on 8 o'clock. Wow, what a discussion.
Yeah.
And it's brought up a lot of joys, emotion, and also a lot of resolve. And I think it was interesting. The film started out with these words by my all-time favorite hero, Abraham Lincoln. So perhaps we'll close with this because I wrote it down. Before long, the most valuable of all arts will be deriving subsistence from the smallest area of soil. No community whose every member possesses this art can ever be the victim of oppression. Abraham Lincoln, 1857.
That was really good.
I know. So
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
with the benediction from Abraham, Father Abraham, we'll adjourn tonight. Thank you all for being here. This was a lot of fun, and I look forward to seeing you next month. What are we watching? I can't remember. I'm always so carried away by our discussions, I can't recall, but watch the retroactive and we'll have another dessert movie. Nancy, thank you so much. And also
you.
Felix and Anna.
Felix,
Mm.
Anna.
Yes, thank you
Harry.
so much. We'll give